everybody to our first time ever Habitat Central Arizona Faith Night. And so really our vision for this was just to be able to connect all of you to hear a brief overview of Habitat, but then to also connect you directly to our one of our teams. And so last year when Levi and I were brainstorming different ideas, we thought how fitting would it be to hear directly from construction. Our construction department does such a mighty force that's behind the scenes, and they do a lot with all of you being involved with either a new build or on our neighborhood revitalization side. You might not see construction a lot, but you definitely interact with them more than you would think because of when your homes start, when they finish, when subs come in, when projects are laid out. All of that happens because of our construction team working in the background. And so we are just so honestly privileged and honored to have them be here. We'll go ahead and let them take over in a little bit, but then I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. And on our construction team, guys, if you wouldn't mind just raising your hands, we'll let you guys take the floor in a second. But we have Pat Veet. He is our manager of operations for construction. We have Steve Horst, who is our director of construction. We have Todd Buckner, who is now, Todd, you're assistant director. Yes, okay. And then we also have Mark House. And Mark, you'll have to remind me of your exact title because it escapes me at the moment.
Sorry about that, Andrea. It's construction field supervisor.
Sweet. And then we have.
I couldn't get to the mute in time.
If they make up a cap and stitch it on, you'll know.
We'll all know.
We don't have our hard hats on, so how am I supposed to know everybody's name? And then we also have John Yuckabell as well, who happens to be on our construction team and is also involved in one of our coalitions with Lutherans Building for Christ. So basically, to start with a brief overview of Habitat, we wanted to just give a quick update in regards to what our team has been able to accomplish this last year. We all know it's been one heck of a year, and we are all trying to get through it the best that we can, just with navigating different things while still hoping to serve families. Because at Habitat, our core still, we want to put God's love into action by helping those families needing affordable housing. And ultimately, we would want to bring people together to help build those homes, communities, and hope. But this year, we've had to change things up a little bit. And so flexibility is something that I think we've all needed. And so we do thank you in advance, everybody, for your flexibility this year. But to go through some of our accomplishments from this last year. So since COVID started, we've still been able to help 19 families move into new homes, which is huge. And this last year, if anything, it's really re-emphasized to me our purpose. Whereas we know we want to build safe homes, but with going through your stay-at-home order, the quarantine, or anything else, I just couldn't imagine being a family and having substandard living conditions and being required to do a stay-at-home order in those conditions. So that means overcrowding, infestation. I mean, you guys, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir because you guys all know.
You are.
But I am, that's right. But really, to me, it re-emphasized this is why we're here. And the fact that we get to do that is honestly such a blessing. And we're grateful for all of you who step alongside us in that effort. And so that's just with new homes. We've also been able to continue to serve families in regards to our neighborhood revitalization program. And with that all together, so there's been 3 different neighborhoods. There's over 197 families. And then on our emergency home repair program, that's 152 families. So all of this is possible because of the donations that we receive from your churches and congregations and groups. Because what happens, as you all know, is we use those funds to help subsidize repairs or help purchase materials for our builds. So really, we're not able to make any of this happen without you guys stepping alongside us and without any of our other sponsors, corporate or individual donors, really helping make this happen. And so for this, for you guys to continue to partner with us, even though there's so many unknowns, is unbelievable. The easy thing would be to walk away and to say, you know what, there's a lot of things uncertain right now. It's really not in our best interest, but the fact that all of you continue to step out in faith and you continue to work alongside us really is just a true testament to you wanting to serve and wanting to live out the love of Christ. So without any further ado, I would pass it to construction, but Levi is also going to give us a quick update in regards to how one of the things that construction's been helping us with this last year, or a couple, I should say.
Levi.
There we go. It's like
What was the question?
my computer was fighting me there for a second to get that mute button.
Levi gets a chance to talk.
Yeah, but good afternoon or good evening, actually, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. It's good to see most of you. I believe I've met most of you in person by now, so that's pretty
Oh, there he is.
all right.
Levi.
But yeah, just to kind of follow up with what Andrea said, our construction team, Andrea and I really are kind of the front-facing individuals. You really hear a lot of any of the news or updates, anything habitat related usually comes from us, either via email or via Zoom call these days. But really what's going on behind the scenes, construction is involved in pretty much every step, at least, I'll use the home builds, for example, everything from that first permit all the way down to that certificate of occupancy when the homeowner can move into their home. Really pretty much all the news updates and any questions that you ask us, we take back to the construction team. And that's really where, a lot of the discussion happens. We have a 2-hour-long meeting, essentially 2 1-hour meetings, but we have 2-hour-long meetings on every Tuesday with the construction team. This is to discuss kind of the status of current builds, the planning that's going into future builds, like securing slabs and utility access, and really kind of looking at the long-term planning and securing permits and environmental reviews for builds that are coming up over the next year. And I really have to say, this really just speaks to the proactiveness and efficiency of the construction team and getting everything done and with every step that they're involved in, how efficient that they are. I also have to say they're kind of patient, as we'll probably come to find out. Securing slabs and permits this last year has been quite the adventure, as they will likely attest to in just a moment. And so much to the point that Andrea and I have been calling it the 4th miracle of Habitat to get a slab poured after the sponsor, the volunteers, and the family are all secured in there. And I got to speak too on our construction team is this last year, as you know, we got our new home office. I was at 28th Avenue in Glendale, if you ever want to come down and see it. But our construction team, all last year, they oversaw the remodel and the renovation of these 2 office buildings that brought us all together in one spot. And this really speaks to their expertise, as the remodel was completed within days of the estimated completion date, and it was completed $50,000 under budget, which is absolutely phenomenal if you know the construction industry, which is notorious for cost overruns and for not sticking to the schedule. So it's really a testament, how just the great job that they do for us and help and support not only the mission of Habitat, but also our team and the volunteers and the leaders that are out on site. So yeah, Andrea, I'll pass it back to you for the outlook.
Awesome. So thank you, Levi. So as we continue to partner with you guys this year and look to serve families, we are just actively looking for opportunities to continue building all across the valley. And a lot of times that depends on where land is affordable and where we can be able to get permits pulled and be able to actually have environmental clearances. And so we're also really, really excited to hopefully start within this next season is the neighborhood revitalization in Palomino and Sunny Slope. This is a new realm to the faith world because we've never had faith partners seek this out and actually partner with us in adopting a neighborhood. And so this definitely, I think, again, just speaks volumes to the passion you guys have for serving your communities and willing to step out in faith and just navigate new waters. And so as we continue into construction, I will just say a friendly reminder to mute yourself if you're not talking so we don't get any background noise. The next thing also is feel free to use the chat as well if there's a question you have that you'd like to ask. If there's something that we don't get to in our meeting, we by all means would be happy to send an email directly out to you afterwards. So Pat and Steve, it is your time to shine. I will pass it your direction.
Thank you, Andrea. That was an overly gracious introduction of construction, and we appreciate that very much. But truly, the gratitude comes expressed from us to you, those that are on the call. I know it looks like I'm in the dark, but as a fellow follower of Christ, I assure you, I've heard the good news and I am in the light. So welcome, and thank you all. Jerome, I see you on the screen. Thank you all to our face sponsorship, our supporters. Thank you to Andrea and Levi for the coordination between the different organizations. I'm kind of biased, of course, but construction is kind of the sticks and bricks of everything, right? It's where the rubber meets the road. And so I think that's why it makes such an interesting and popular topic. And so we're glad to join you tonight, answer any questions you may have. As Andrea indicated, alluded to, that if you have any other questions that come to mind later, we cannot get to, please email her. We're in reciprocation with Andrea and her team each and every day. So again, welcome. Thank you for your support. I'm the director of construction, so I carry the KBP license. I'm the qualifying party on the Habitat's license. Todd Butner is the assistant director of construction, so he kind of manages everything. Really, he's very key to our organization. Pat Beat is the operations manager on the administrative side. Okay, so Pat and I pretty much stay in the office and try to keep our nose out of the field, not cross steps with Todd and Mark as much as possible. And then we got Mark Kautz. And Mark Kautz's official title is Fields Operations Manager. And so Mark, make note of that, okay? But at this point, we're going to pass it over to Pat Beat. And Pat is really good at taking us through the agenda. I think he'll probably delegate out questions and answers as we go. So Pat, please take it away, and thanks everybody once again. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you, Andrea, and thank you all the sponsors, and thank you so much for the patience you guys have had with us. As Andrea says, it has been very trying. We have a format here where I'm going to read through this, and hopefully it'll cover everything. And as we go through this, if you could save your questions to the end, and then we'll answer any and all things that you have as you need. So the first thing is that our focus, it still remains with providing families with affordable housing, having our slabs and right-of-way work completed 3 to 6 months prior to vertical start date. And for the safety being able to maintain promised vertical safe start dates. That is really a big item for us, and we try every single year for it, but it just seems like this year has been the hardest one, and previous years have had their challenges also. But that is truly our focus, to have these slabs 3 to 6 months before the vertical start date. Maintain our build schedules that are given to sponsor relations by Andrea and Levi, so that you have those well ahead of time and you're able to facilitate whatever volunteers you need to get together, and that schedule won't change once you have it in your hand. So many times you guys have been very patient, and when we've had to push back a date because we couldn't get the cement in, we couldn't do whatever, and we just appreciate your patience on that. We try to facilitate a fun, rewarding, safe environment for sponsors to complete their mission to help our homeowners. We're just one part of it, and you guys are the major part of it. So we thank you for that. We have updated some of our safety standards. That's a huge concern for us. We've incorporated some of this into our new builds, and one of those is building gable modules. And with that, I'd like to ask Todd to step in and explain that process, please.
Thank you, Pat, and thank you to everybody that's on here tonight. Thank you for your support. I'm so happy to see so many familiar faces and some I haven't seen for a while. So good to see you guys. Yeah, like Pat was saying with the gable modules, about 1.5 years ago, we decided for safety reasons to start building. And for you that haven't been involved in that, it's basically the first 4 trusses in the front and the rear of the house. And as you guys know, we used to have to climb up into the attic and put all the bracing. hang over the edge of the roof and put the fascia and the CC plywood, and then put the safety rails before
Been
anything.
there, done that.
Yeah, you've all been up there, and it's really unsafe. And we get up there the night after it rains and everything. So now we're building them on the ground, attaching them to the house temporarily for safety, and putting all the safety rails, every component. Diane, you were out there. You've seen the one in Glendale. It's amazing. It goes up nice and smooth. It doesn't even creak or crack like you would think it would. It goes up better than just a single truss. And it just saves so much time. And all in all, it saves injuries and protects our, our volunteers and our staff, which is the main goal every day in construction. And so the agenda basically goes through what all it entails, the knee bracing, safety rails, and all that, like I said. But it's in the manual now. You can click on our homepage and look at the gable module, how it's built, and get familiar with it. And someday I hope to see you guys out there so we can walk you through it. It's really fun to actually work on the ground instead of the roof and just crane it up there and let the crane do all the work. Again, thank you so much for all you guys do. We couldn't do it without you, and love all of you. Next, Pat.
Thank you, Todd. Well said. And the next thing we want to talk about is the impact that COVID-19 has had on our processes. So the first thing that comes up is scheduling our subcontractors. Subcontractors, as you can imagine, have been affected by the COVID as much as we have. If it isn't someone who actually has COVID-19, it's the COVID tracing that stops people from having to do anything for 10 or used to be 14 days. So that really hurt the field work that our subcontractors were completing. And then we had issues with getting the ever aforementioned concrete slabs. And I'm going to ask Steve to step in here and talk about the major issues, because there's something above and beyond the COVID-19 that affected us this year also. Steve?
It's directly related to the COVID-19. The Navajo Nation up north harvests fly ash. Fly ash is a very important ingredient to add to cement to cure to concrete. When the Navajo Nation was pillaged with the COVID, it shut down the main production plant in Arizona. Every concrete contractor in the valley was put on what they call allocation. Allocation basically means contractors can only pour so many cubic yards of concrete a day, up to so many yards a week. And so that really bottlenecked the industry, and really bottlenecked Habitat specifically, because Habitat is a small fish in a very big pond. If anybody follows the permitting and the construction in Phoenix, Maricopa County, you realize that there is a lot of permits being pulled, and Habitat pulls maybe 20 to 30 a year. And so that's not very enticing to the big builders. And so sometimes we get put on the back burner, and we're going to talk about that later. If anybody knows of any connections, we're always reaching out to our sponsorship. If there's any connections, throw some contractors our way. But I think that's what Pat was referring to. And now the plant is up and running, but we're still seeing somewhat of a shortage because we're seeing the back end of the backlog. And so it's still not up to full production, but we're getting there. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Other delays that we've
question?
had. Oh, excuse me.
Just in case somebody asked, was the fly ash coming from the coal burning power plants?
Coming from the Navajo Nation, every concrete contract.
I'm going to leave.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Was the fly ash a product or a byproduct of burning coal on the Navajo Nation?
Either that, or I thought it was some type of volcanic. I thought they harvested out of the volcanoes. I don't know specifically where the fly ash is coming from, okay, but there is a production plant in the Navajo Nation that was shut down because of the COVID.
Okay.
This is Judge speaking. You're absolutely right. It is a byproduct of coal burning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you. Other delays that we've had involve our window deliveries. Our window deliveries, where we used to be able to get those in 4 weeks, now sometimes it's 8, sometimes 10 weeks, sometimes 12 weeks. And that's the latest when we're going for inspections. We've altered to, instead of going for a strap and shear inspection, we go for a roof nailing inspection so that we can still stay on our schedules. doors and trim deliveries have been delayed as well. And that hasn't affected us as worse, but it does look like with the backlog that Steve was talking about, doors are actually getting worse now. And appliances were delayed. And we kind of saw that one coming because we get an in-kind from Whirlpool and we saw that they were really delayed in their stuff. So we actually did some purchasing locally and we bought all the appliances that we needed for our houses. Todd and Mark arranged and did that. And we actually have those stored in our warehouses. So that was one step that we saw coming and we could get around. Permit processes with the cities. This is a rough one. The cities have a lot of their people who work from home. You don't have that face-to-face interaction. You have limited amount of times that you can do a face-to-face with them. And with that being the case, things are delayed. With our grading and draining plans, many times in this past fall, we had where the grading and draining plans were put together and submitted. 41 days later, we get them back. And when we get them back, they're redlined. And then those get corrected with the engineer. That usually takes a few days if the engineer really steps to it. And then after that, it could be another 41 days that we're waiting. So we have no control over the city, but we do our best to try and influence. And Evelyn, who works with us, she's been very good to be proactive with it. Tana Nichols also tries to be as proactive as she can. But just with the COVID impact, it's made it much harder to get things facilitated through the cities. Environmental clearances, I think Andrea and Steve mentioned the environmental clearances, something that used to take us only a week to get in most instances. That was before the COVID. We actually take months to get that. And that actually happened before the COVID process, probably 4 months before COVID started. There was an increased focus on the attention and detail and the hurdles you had to go through to get your environmentals passed. So that is a huge roadblock for us. We also, as you all know, we have limited number of volunteers that we have on site in order to be safety conscious and to make sure that we create the safest environment we can while we're still trying to get the work done. And in that instance, 15 people is what we have out there, including our leaders for any exterior work and interior work. It's 10 people. Habitat staff is filled in due to the limited amount of volunteers where we can. And I am happy to say that most of our builds right now are staying on schedule, but we sure miss the way things were before. We'd love to have 20 to 25 people from the volunteer groups, the churches out there, and be able to really do this the way that we know it can best be done. But as we stand right now, we're doing everything we can to keep the processes going. And we have another item that we are having to deal with, and that is theft. We've had a lot of theft on our building supplies on sites, particularly in the Phoenix area, Central City South. This causes us increased costs to replace or repair the damages caused by thieves. If you can imagine, we're all set up with all of our electric wiring in there or copper in there for our plumbing, and someone goes in there and vandalizes it and causes a water leak, and it just causes a lot of problems for us that we have to follow up with. And we can't be as efficient with the sponsor money that every one of you guys give us, and it just hurts us in our processes. So what we've done is we've stepped it up as best we can. And for that, I would like Mark to step in and give us a little oversight on the steps that we've taken and we're going for. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So with the increased theft and stuff that we've had increased costs of replacing things and repairing damages from the thieves and theft on sites. The things that we have done to ensure the protection of our lumber on sites, because this past fall we've had a lot of theft with lumber. So we've moved forward with getting storage containers, an extra storage container on site to store all our lumber in so that we reduce that theft. And then the other thing would be that we started completely enclosing our house to seal it all up as soon as we pass our shear and strap, so that we don't have any theft for the following the following trades that will be coming in. So we have reduced theft on, with that process, we have reduced theft on the plumbing, the HVAC equipment, the electrical wires, because that's been a big thing where they've came in and stole the entire electrical. So that kind of hopefully removed that aspect of the theft. Other than that, I mean, we've been trying to protect the houses as much as possible. So back to you, Pat.
Thank you very much, Mark. And one other thing we've done to try to keep our costs down is that where we have had OSB completely around the exterior of the house, we're going back to what is called for on our plans. And that saves us a little bit of money, but it also creates a situation where we don't have the house boarded up completely. So it's a very tricky thing to get your lath put in, and maybe your windows are in, maybe your windows aren't in, and get all that in, get the chicken wire on so that it is as secured as possible. And I can tell you there's great links that are going to, like the entrances. I know some of you who are actually out on site know the entrances have the plywood on it right now, and across the garage opening, we have plywood on there. And anytime we have a subcontractor who's going to do work, they end up having to have us have to take that off. So it's caused a lot of extra work, but a lot of people are trying to do the best we can to be good stewards of the money that you all have given us. The next thing I want to go into is items construction could use help on. As Steve alluded to, trades. We are always welcome to receive as many subcontractors as we can for concrete, for plumbing, framing, because sometimes we do frame out some houses when we're dealing with city money, and or we sub out the whole house, I should say, and stucco. If we had more stucco subcontractors, HVAC, and particularly block walls. That has been a very large stumbling block for us. And if any of you have connections to licensed subcontractors in any of these fields, please share those with us. We would love to have more resources. On another side, tools, we have had some generators stolen, and I guess some of those generators were our loud ones, because what we're asking for now are our lower noise emitting generators. Honda makes a decent one, Generac makes one, and they generally cost anywhere around $999 to $1,149 for 3,500 watts or 2,800 watts, which we have found can power our sites until we can get either our temporary power up or we have our power in place. Those are just some of the things right there. But guys, we can't thank you enough for all that you do for us. We're just one tiny piece. You guys are the major piece. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Andrea, and she can open it up to questions. And Steve, Todd, myself, and Mark, we're available, and John Jacobel, we're available to answer any questions you may have. And thank you again.
Wait, you have a question?
Yeah. Andrea, I have a question.
Yep, right.
The question is, how many of those 1,000-watt generators, how many of them do you need at any one given time? And how many do you have? How many more would you need?
Mark, why don't you answer that?
As of right now, we have a total of, I think, 2 of the small generators on site, and the rest of them are the regular noise emitting generators that we currently have, and we only have like maybe I'd say 6 or 7 of those ones, and so we're looking to replace this ones that have been stolen. So we probably would need about like 4 to 5.
We have volunteers for site security.
Hey, let's shoot high. I think we need 10 generators. I think we're shooting for 10 of the super quiet generators.
The reason why I'm asking, Mark, is that, you know, that's something we could go and raise money for. They're about $1,000 a pop.
Mhm.
Just how many would you need to have at any one point in time?
Probably 10. So
Okay.
Whoa.
yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So because the fact that we have multiple sites, and what we have right now is actually not enough to cover all our sites.
Right.
So luckily we have had temp power for some of our sites to cover us through it. But with what was stolen, and I mean what we have on hand, we could usually use a lot more.
Okay.
Not only theft, we've had about 8 of them go down in about a year, just old and wore out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's time
I
to
actually have
replenish.
to pick up 4 of them that we went in for repairs that we can't even repair. So we just have to kind of scrap them.
Mhm.
I mean, Carol and I are like a lot of people. The government insists on giving us extra money we didn't ask for. And so we're deciding, okay, we got this extra $600 and maybe another $1,200 or $1,400 a piece and so on. And so we're looking at logical places to donate that money. And I'm sure that there are a considerable number of people out there who are kind of in the same situation. You know, this is not money that we need. And so we'd like to give some to Habitat, and, you know, for something like that. And if it's $1,000 and buys a generator, that's a good thing to do.
Thank you.
It is.
People know that you have that need.
Thank
Jim
you for
has
that.
to-
And one other aspect to the generators is that the older ones that were so loud, it sometimes when you're getting up to it, I think it was like over 95 decibels when you're within 8 feet of the thing.
Yes.
And we're trying to make it quieter so it's less impacted on your ears and safer. So when you're trying to talk to other people on the site, I know many of you have been on the sites and you hear those generators going and you have to yell over them. So that's kind of the reason why we're need a little bit higher priced generators. But thank you, Frank, for that.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. That's super sweet of you. Now, Glenn, for a Mountain View, I saw your hand.
Yeah, 2 things. One, I think send us an email of what you need, particularly with generators. I'm right on target. The more specific the request, the easier it is to raise the money for almost anything. And the other question is, are there other alternatives for finding fly ash? Is it transportable from out of state, or is that cost prohibitive? And will the direction we seem to be headed in, by policy at least, is to wipe out coal usage in this country? Is that going to present a problem for the future for fly ash?
That's a very good question. There's different ingredients. Maybe Judd would even more about this than I do, but they have pozzolanic ash, which the Romans used to use 2,000 years ago, but it takes too long to cure, so they don't use that anymore. I mean, there's different ingredients, maybe polymer that they can add to it. You know, I'm not a concrete composition specialist or chemist. I did understand, Glenn and Judd, that the production may not be the issue of the fly ash. It's possibly the transportation. So there's not enough drivers to transport it. Okay, so we're getting conflicting reports. But what I can tell you is that even if we could outsource it unlocally, Habitat is not that strong and powerful. It's going to go to Desert Ready Mix. It's going to go to Cemix. And then Toll Brothers is going to eat it up. And Shea Homes is going to eat it up because they got 10,000 lots this year compared to our 20. I wanted to answer real quick. Jim from the West Valley Lutherans asked in the chat, how are regular contractors dealing with theft? Good question. Please remember the areas in which Habitat builds. We're on an infill lot in a very dilapidated neighborhood. These builders are building in large communities and they gate it off. And if anybody enters that community during the night, there's usually a security guard roaming around because they got one security guard for 5,000 lots. I'm just throwing that out there hypothetically. It's cost effective then to secure that, right? We don't have that luxury. We hopefully have a temporary fence around our house in South Phoenix. We've tried dogs. Dogs cost $2,000 a month, or a week. Excuse me. It's $1,000 per dog, and they come in pairs. Somebody comes to the front, the other dog goes to the rear. They work it out position. Jim, I hope that better answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You know, I've done a couple of Thrivent associated builds around the country, and I'm not suggesting Phoenix change its whole model, but what they've often done is actually bought or had donated properties where they put in a dozen or 2 dozen or whatever they can Habitat houses in one community. I don't know if that's anything. I'm sure Andrea, you're all familiar with that, but is that maybe a better model going forward?
It is.
Long
It's
term,
a wonderful model. It comes down to land acquisition, right, Jim? And right now we're seeing all the land in the valley getting gobbled up. And so we're currently I'm in active meetings with land acquisition. We're looking west west of the White Tanks. We're looking south. We're looking down to Pinal County, Arizona City. There's some developed lots. But yes, we're looking at 5-acre parcels to where we can get 20, 30, 40 houses in one community. That optimizes our resources, of course. We can keep one site super, a couple site supervisors on many different lots, very close in proximity. So yes, Jim, good question, and I hope that answers it.
We do have one subdivision coming up probably in about 2 years, right, Steve? Alta Vista.
Alta Vista Ranch in South Phoenix. How many lots, Todd? Is that 25?
I believe so, yes. And it's right next to the old South Ranch, a lot of you know.
Oh, really? Huh.
So when we're asking about contractors and we put requests out there, Mr. Frank, we need land. If anybody knows any land barons that hoarding land that would be willing to, you know, sell to Habitat at a reduced cost, we'd love to gobble up that land for somebody. I know Jason has worked with people, farmers out in Goodyear. There's a key guy out here that he's in discussions with because a lot of this farmland is still available. And so that's about the last of it. So we're working on that, Jim. Thanks.
Can I make a suggestion about security? Would it be possible to offer to our homeowners and future homeowners and their friends our credit, that's work credit for doing security, coming and staying on the lot, you know, camping out overnight?
Boy, that's a good question. I can't
just
speak
give
for family services, Frank. But
there are a lot of people who don't like to swing a hammer who might come and make that contribution.
That's an excellent sweat equity opportunity, Andrea. I'm going to leave that for you to go to Maryville with, okay?
I will, absolutely. And to go back to the safety thing and doing infill lots, so to give an example of just how we'd even love for you guys to even just step alongside us in prayer aspect is, there was not this year, but the year prior, with the Southeast Valley Lutheran Coalition and their in-kind donor for plumbing had come and installed all of their copper plumbing underground, and we had a delay with the concrete, and there was 2 weeks that the copper was uncovered. And I literally think that was divine intervention, literally an act of God, that none of that copper was touched. And so then we were able to proceed as planned. And so not to say it's like the theft is happening from lack of prayer, but really just all of the requests to continue to ask you guys to step alongside us in prayer and your congregations in that. Because the community support honestly just means tremendously. And the fact too that you guys would be willing to talk to your congregations about the different needs helps us not just on the build site, but it helps us with those families that we're all hoping to get into homes. And so helps us ease that process and maybe even take a week or two off a schedule that's been delayed or things like that. So honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we want to just thank you all for everything that you do to come and step alongside us, because we can't do the miracle of Habitat without our sponsors and our volunteers. And our affiliate this last year has noted that we were at our grassroots. We started because of our faith community. And this last year, we've been able to continue a lot because of our faith community. So once again, we just honestly, like, I cannot express the amount of words that I have to say out of my gratitude for all of you. Do we have, I know Tina wanted to kind of also make her regards, but are there any other questions that we have out there?
I have a question about security, particularly where we have a home that's in a neighborhood surrounded by non-Habitat homes. Is there some way that we can involve that neighborhood somehow with, I realize now with COVID that's a problem, but if we could invite the neighbors to come and have coffee and talk with us about Habitat, introduce these people who are going to move into their neighborhood to their neighbors, that if the neighbors were engaged somehow in protecting their property.
Yeah, I think that's another great idea. It reminds me of somehow some neighborhoods have block watches.
Yeah.
And just kind of maybe getting them more in the loop.
Sure.
Yeah, and we do have a team member on staff who specifically works with different neighborhood associations and block watches. So yeah, I think we should definitely approach that idea.
Andrea, let us know when we get down, because I have a story about the secret magic ingredient used by Habitat in Poland.
Okay, for sure, for sure.
Carol and I worked for Habitat in Poland a couple of years ago, out in the countryside. We were building eco house with hay bales and so on, and they all had to be mudded down. The secret ingredient, swore by all of the Polish farmers, said this will make it last for 500 years, was horse manure. And I know, because I mixed up huge batches of it in a clawfoot tub. Magic ingredient. You're out of fly ash? Well,
maybe horse manure is our next go-to. Oh man, I'll Steve, I'm putting that one in your corner to look at.
My school is right up next to a farm with horses all over the place. So if that's the issue, then I got it. I got that covered. No problem.
Christy, you got it covered.
Talk with the principal about bad little boys and give them the job of gathering it up, right?
I shall indeed.
One of the things we like to say at Habitat, that sounds like a volunteer opportunity.
This is Jim from the Lutheran Thrift Shop. Just a suggestion. I think it's best to go out with requests like for generators, things like that. I mean, money is fungible, but people look at Tax 990 for Habitat for Humanity and say, wow, they got a ton of money. But if you go out with specific requests for generators, horse manure, people are more likely to want to donate to specific requests than just general grants. And
yeah,
that's about it. I lost my train of thought with the horse manure.
I really like that suggestion, Jim, and I found that to be accurate. And sometimes people give money and they think, what are they going to do with the money? But if they give a generator something specific, that generator is going to get used, and I like that, Jim. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, if Carol and I get $2,000 a piece, that's 4 generators. Ooh.
That's almost halfway to the 10. No, I would agree, Jim. And I think maybe too that like where the funds are going are helping us buy, like they would help us buy these generators, on the fundraising side, when they're allocated to a specific build, it helps us purchase the sticks and bricks. So there are specific things that that money is going towards, but sometimes we don't necessarily say this is exactly how it's being used, or this is how we're going to help us further the build. So I think that's good to know. So thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, I know we get free stuff from Lowe's. Could we talk with the local Lowe's store distributor and say, hey, we'd like to buy 10 of these for Habitat? Could we cut a deal on them?
Yeah, I think we've hit enough.
Yeah, probably. I would think so. Steve?
We used to raise money at All Saints of the Desert Church by people's.
Oh, you're good, Jack.
Speak, Jack.
Oh, Jack, you put yourself back on mute. You're good.
Jack.
Okay, I'm off of mute now. Okay, we used to raise money at All Saints by people buying a door, a set of windows, a box of nails, because West Valley used to give us prices for what it costs, how many nails were in a house, and they would come up with, so many boxes of nails, and it was $250. And a window cost whatever. And so we would raise money for Habitat by having people buy a particular item for the house that the Episcopal Coalition was building. Now, I don't know, Pat, if you could come up with, and I'm sure you can, the price of windows, doors, things like that, because the generator is just one item. It'll last for years, but if it will help maybe to raise the money in your own church by people buying a particular item for that house.
That's a fun way to fundraise, I think, Jack. Luke?
Yeah.
Well, I raised thousands of dollars that way,
Vinton
so
Allen,
it
Vinton
just,
Council.
you know, it worked for me and All Saints to Desert Church.
Hey, Jack, a while back, not too long ago, I gave Deborah a breakdown of all the materials. Basically, I rounded it off. I didn't do each door. I just did doors and trim. I did lumber. I did, you know, I did every phase, concrete. So there is a list if that's what you want, or do you want it broke down to how much each window cost?
Well, you could say there are 12 windows. I don't know how many windows are in the house, but there's 12 windows in the house and it costs $2,200.
Yeah.
Then somebody can say, well, if I buy one window, it's going to cost me so much money. It's just a fundraising technique. And it works.
You guys, I have to jump off the call. I wanted to thank everybody before I did. Jack, I don't mean to embarrass you, but I've been in that room that Jack's in, and behind him, it's Jack Lutz with every picture of the president since then.
Yeah, well, last weekend,
yes,
Steve, I built another wall of fame, and it was all the plaques I've gotten from Habitat. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's over my left shoulder is part of the wall.
Yeah, I see some of them.
Thank you guys very much. And ladies, thank you all for your support. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
All right. So as we continue to just wrap things up, I don't want to overlook anybody. If you do happen to have a question, feel free to either email that to Levi or myself, and we'll make sure to pass it along to the team so we can get it answered to you, or get an answer to you. Tina, I also don't want to overskip the regards that you wanted to give everybody.
Oh, thanks, Andrea. And for those of you I haven't had the honor of meeting yet, I'm Tina Burgos. I'm now the Chief Development Officer here at Habitat, and I get the sheer joy of working not only with Andrea and Levi, but all of these wonderful gentlemen in our construction team. They are truly behind the magic that makes everything happen. Many of you I've seen on various coalition calls on Thursday nights or Monday nights or however different times that we've all gathered. And just during this call tonight, I think I counted over 30 different individuals that have joined this time to listen to what our construction team has to say. And for that, I just want to thank you once again. You give up your time consistently and continually, and it is just such a blessing for all of us to have the opportunity to share more of the behind the scenes of how we make this all work. So thanks to each and every one of you. One quick little tidbit I wanted to share. We are now, Habitat for Humanity Central Arizona is the #1 affiliate in the country in families served. We are at the very top of the list, and that would not happen without all of you. And so thank you so very much for your time every single day, every single week. We love having you as part of our family. We wish we could see more of you during the times that are just restricting us a little, but we are going to be welcoming you with open arms when we can lift some of those restrictions. Your support and your passion for what we do does not go unnoticed. And just thank you so much for your time once again. And thanks for listening to our construction team. I want to thank those guys too, because they are up at the crack of dawn. There are times when I will get text messages or emails from some of these gentlemen on the phone, on the call, that I will not name personally, Pat, John, Steve. So they are giving up their time too tonight. And for that, we are also very grateful. Thank you all so much for everything you continue to do. If there's ever anything you need from myself or Andrea or Levi or any of our construction, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here for you just as much as you're here for us. And I thank you. Have a great evening and thanks so much.
Andrea, since this is a faith meeting, are you going to end it with a prayer?
Yes, I am so glad that you said that, because I was so excited to get started that like 10 minutes in, it dawned on me that I didn't start with one. So I'm sure I would be happy to close this out. Okay, dear God, we just come before you tonight, and honestly, we just want to start with grateful hearts. And thank you just for this opportunity to serve alongside our different faith partners and our different, honestly, like just all of our partners, Lord, to do your work. And Lord, today I was just reminded of how Habitat was founded on the principle of partnership. And it's just that principle that we live out because you choose to partner with us. And just how with Ezekiel, you partnered with him to raise the dry bones, to raise the dead bones to life. You could have done it on your own, but you didn't. You chose to partner with Ezekiel, and you still choose to partner with us. And so with that, I just pray that we can continue to show your love and show that partnership as we continue to serve families and reach out to those in need of a safe home. May it all be for your glory and for your honor. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening. And also, last comment is if you have any feedback in regards to what you enjoyed, what you would have loved to know more about, let us know. We'd love to see how we can improve, or if it makes sense to keep doing these. Goodbye.
Yeah,
Take care.
Is the person who did a Habitat in Poland still on?
I think, yes. You might have
Wasn't
to.
me. Wasn't me.
I think it's Frank.
That was
Frank.
Frank. Might be gone. Oh, there they are up in the corner.
You'll have to unmute yourself, Frank.
Just wanted to reach out to him because I did a Habitat in Poland in 2013. Just wanted to know a little bit about his experience of, if we can make contact somehow.
We'll connect you. I think they might have left, but I'll connect you, Jim.
Hey, thank you very much, Andrea.
Sure.
Good meeting. It was terrific.
Hey, Jim.
Yes.
There are a number of subdivisions that have been built by Habitat throughout the city. There's a condo, 48 condos in Old Town Surprise. There's 112 houses in El Mirage in a subdivision. South Ranch is, I don't know how big it is, but it's over 100 houses. There's Palmer with 17 houses. There's in Peoria, there is where Todd lives. What are that we call it? But there's 17 or 18 houses there. So there's a number of multi-house units built by Habitat.
Okay. Yeah. What I've done it in Asheville and South Carolina and outside of New Orleans, and it just seemed that the isolated houses in neighborhoods, some of the neighbors weren't particularly appreciative of a Habitat house. Now that's
well, in the 20 some odd years that I've been helping Habitat build houses, in individual houses, every neighborhood that we built a house in, it improved the neighborhood, and the neighbors began to take more pride in their houses. So individual houses do work. But
yeah, I guess you got to depend on the neighborhood. I mean, the Habitat. I'm sorry for hijacking the meeting here. I apologize, but yeah, at least in Asheville and outside of New Orleans and Sea Islands, they just found that the neighborhoods that were built by Habitat, the individuals did better. Now, maybe Phoenix is different. We're so, from all over the world, nobody was born in Phoenix, but so just tossing it out.
Anyway, we have done subdivisions. Habitat has. And with that, I'm going to leave the meeting. Hey, take care, everybody.
Thanks, Jack.
I was actually born in Phoenix, and I was working in South Ranch as one of my first nonprofit jobs with Habitat. We built 195 homes there, and we did face a lot of those NIMBY critics, not in my backyard folks, that didn't want us there. But we proved them wrong, and that's why this affiliate is so successful today. So
super. Yeah, I just tossing stuff out. So
no, it's great. There are a few of us that were born here and still live here. There aren't many, but there's a few.
I'm not leaving except in June, July, August, and September. So
can't blame you there.
I'll be here for 2/3 of the year, but the other third of the year I'll be gone.
In regards to security, do we have any relationships with any police departments? And should we develop some?
We have one relationship, particularly with the City of Glendale Police Department. In regards to the other police departments, Tina, do you know?
Deborah has a great connection with one of the Phoenix PD folks that we need to just kind of, I think to a lot of the points that I heard tonight is be specific in what we're looking for, how we can utilize their help and make that very targeted request. I don't see why they would not want to make themselves available to the extent that it makes sense for them as well. And they're protecting their own backyard. So let's make sure that we talk about that next Tuesday in our calls, Andrea. But I'm certain that we have, and Tempe Police too is going to be involved as we continue to develop property out there. But
Peoria Police are very involved also. As a matter of fact, we had at one dedication, we had like 15 Peoria policemen show up because the house had been a crack house, and then we rehabbed it and put a family in it, and they just wanted to come and see what it looked like without the guns drawn.
Yeah. You're right. I remember it.
This is Judd. Andrea, if you could pull together a little information on this outreach for generators and let us know if there's a particular avenue that you'd like us to go through. You want us to try and find money and bring it to you guys to buy generators? Do you want individuals to go out and buy generators? If there's a better bang for the buck in one system or another,
Yeah.
kind of let us know what that is.
Sure, absolutely.
Good night.
Bye, Diana.
You heard
Good
me.
night, folks. This was fun.
Thanks, Jim, for coming.
Good to see
Great.
Jack.
Rick, I
Yeah.
didn't want to overlook your comment. I think I had started to respond and I got distracted. So I should not be managing the chat is what all that is to say.
Oh, okay. Well, there's something I want to share real quick, just the cost of people and you and Levi.
Oh, okay. Well, we can wait till the end.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else who has any other further comments before we head out? No.
thanks again, everybody. Have a great night. Have a
Yeah,
wonderful
it
weekend.
was a great meeting. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks so much for joining and stay safe out there. It's going to rain again.
Oh, boy.
Yes, yes.
Take care and thank you all so much.
Bye-bye. Have a good night.
I just want to let you know, sorry I was late. They were demolishing my house today. And I was using my own, here, you can see how I have nothing on the floor.
Wow.
And I just got this one chair to sit in here.
You're okay, Pat. No worries.
Hence a tad bit late, but anyhow, two things I have. Yes, I think the idea of the list would be good for us Methodists also. I realize we need some more money. Secondly, my church just told me they were sending $1,300 more to you all for the St. Matt thing. I know, I was like, oh my gosh, we've already done our part, but you're doing more, thank you. But I think if I made another request like these guys were saying with specifics like this costs $1,500 or this costs $50 or whatever, they might write a check for $50 towards a window or whatever. You know, just things like that. So I think that's a good idea for all of us in our coalition too.
Okay, cool.
Anyhow,
That is
with that
good.
said, I'll let you go and I'll echo a little bit more in my own house. And they're not coming back until Monday. Oh my gosh, so I get to echo till when they come back to redo. But oh, they were talking about a chocolate and I go, oh, I know what that is. I work on Habitat houses.
That is awesome.
I was using my Habitat knowledge and I got some really cool pink gloves, breast cancer gloves, not drugs, gloves that were at Home Depot when I was buying stuff. So I was like so excited. I go, oh good, I'm gonna give these to the women at Habitat because they came in 3-packs.
Oh, cool. Yes. Oh my gosh.
I'm ready to get back on site, but I don't know when that's gonna be.
We're ready to have you back on site, Pat. We're all on the edge of our seats.